The tunnel stood open, carved into the earth, dipping below street and city. It ran nearly the length of a mile and was straight as an arrow. Straight enough, you could see the embers of light from one side to the other. Light like a single little firefly, small but distinct. A man came up to me as I pondered the scene. He shouted, and I stepped back. "Do you have clearance to be here?" I raised my arms by instinct and made a "whoa" noise, slightly annoyed. I found my ID and showed it to him. "Clearance? I'm damn well in charge of this place." He mumbled something of an apology. I watched the scene. Trucks closed off the path into the tunnel, and men with military gear aimed rifles and large-looking devices at the mouth of the tunnel. I need to know the details. Now! Let me explain who and what I do before I continue. I work for the Department of Energy. No doubt by now you've seen the countless theories about our department. We're harboring aliens, secret climate change weapons, all that buzz. Let me assure you, we do none of the sort. We hunt monsters. We find and neutralize the strange. My job: assist local enforcement with department forces and neutralize whatever the hell is killing people now. You would know, Pen, that was the name, if you actually read the files I sent you. My assistant. "Ah, Cynthia," I greeted. "You know I don't hold much value to those things." It was true. The little reports we got were nothing compared to what was spoken to on the ground. There was a certain level of censoring and deviation I did not like. So I turned back to the burly-looking guy and asked, "I know that... I eyed the tunnel. Bad vibes. I know that 5 people have vanished in there. I need to know more." He shook his head. "Gavin." He extended a hand, which I shook. "Your information's wrong. Our count is 8. I noted the patch. He, too, was Department of Energy. "Are all these men our people?" He nodded. I walked over to the row of men with rifles, just mere inches from the mouth of the tunnel. "Good work. Now, I need to know everything." He handed me a file. Inside were photographs and documents. 2 weeks ago, the Landon family went missing. Mum, Dad, 2 boys. I inspected the photograph. A friend of the family noticed they weren't answering any calls and reported them to the authorities. My assistant, Cynthia, spoke next. "Then the officer went missing, right?" Gavin shook his head. "Your files are wrong. I've spent the past day getting this all cleared up." I sighed and made an "I told you so" look towards my assistant. Before Officer Leeds vanished, one Darcy Marks went through and disappeared. Cynthia shook her head. "I don't have her on my file." "That's because we missed her," Gavin explained. "Apparently, she's the type to disappear for a time and not tell anyone. We became aware of her when some friends at the factory she worked at reported her missing." He paused and waved for some of his people to come. "Well, and this." A rather smart-looking person came by with a laptop. They held out a hand, and like before, I shook it. "I'm Kaz, specialist." "Kaz, show Pen here the recording," Gavin told. Behind us, I heard a series of loud noises emanate from the tunnel. Hoots, like an owl of some sort, but more mammalian, like some sort of ape. The Darcy recording. Kaz set the laptop down and nodded, clicking through files. "This call, flagged our system. The system was able to isolate the noise from a suspected supernatural entity we cited before. And they say we shouldn't record telephone calls," Gavin joked. "Unnecessary evil." Kaz pressed play. Recording of Darcy Marks to a friend. Identity kept anonymous for archival purposes. Darcy Marks. "Please pick up, please pick up!" Female friend, identity unknown. "I'm here. What's up?" "The tunnel isn't ending! I've been driving for an hour and I swear there's..." "Which tunnel?" "I don't know! Do you think I pay attention to that?" "What was that?" "What was what?" "The car just stopped. I think there's something ahead of me. I'm turning on the lights. Ah! What? What is it?" "Oh God! There's a car in front of me. They're all dead. Just dead. A whole family! Hello? DOS?
This screech.
Kaz selected another file, and the noise played. It was similar indeed to the sound we had just heard, coming from the cave. But this was more isolated. If this was a single animal, then... Cynthia realised this before me. There's multiple creatures, she murmured.
That much we've gathered, Gavin spoke. You're the specialist, Pen. What do you suppose we do?
I weighed my options carefully. Kaz, you said we've had this creature's call before. Where?
Kaz pulled up the database. Island 2014. 3 teenagers go missing exploring a cave. A volunteer manhunt ensued. They entered the cave, and select groups reported tunnels being longer than they should have been. Another few weeks, the cave eventually returned to its normal state.
So it had some power over either perception or reality. And by how it had stopped Darcy's car, I was going to go with perception. We're going to brick up the tunnel. Cover it up with a rebuild effort or something. Gavin began.
We can't do that.
I asked him why.
Senator Carlisle's daughter is in there, and...
He put his hands up to his face in tired annoyance.
The senator is threatening to defund the department if we don't get a bark.
Damn! I snapped. Then I want one team in there, armed to the teeth. I eyed some gear. I want them holding a rope. I want drones in there. Is that clear? Gavin and Kaz nodded. They set about their mission. 5 men stood at the mouth of the tunnel, more weapons than I could count. A priest was there, praying over them, and so was a monk, and a strange-looking woman with a symbol of a crab. I had a feeling I was not going to like this. Recording of Expedition 1. Names altered for archival purposes. Blue Jay 1. This is Blue Jay 1 reporting in. We're about to enter the tunnel. Blue Jay 2. Why do I get the feeling I'm not going to like this? Blue Jay 3.
Aw, mate, don't think too much about it. We survived worse.
Background chatter. This is Blue Jay 1, and we have crossed over into the tunnel. We are holding the rope as we descend and... Kaz.
That doesn't make sense.
What doesn't?
The rope's gone slack from our end.
That's impossible. Wait. I can't see the entrance. Blue Jay 4. I really don't like this. Screech. Distant. Blue Jay 5. Is now a bad time to tell you I don't like dark places?
You're joking, right?
At this point in time, the radio cuts out.
Damn it!
Kaz swore.
I've lost them. No idea if they're getting out of that or not.
I began to pace around, thinking hard, thinking fast. You sure bricking this place up isn't an option? Gavin shook his head. We need to call in a specialist. Kaz half laughed at that.
I thought you were a specialist.
I shook my head. I was more of a controls guy, a research man. We need an Attiga. Cynthia gave me a grim look. You know how the director feels about Attigas. I gave her a hard look. Cynthia, I began. I don't give a damn what the director thinks. Right now I need someone whose family has been hunting these things for generations. I'll have to submit a request form. I sighed. No request form. I don't even know if the senator's daughter is alive in there or not, but we don't have time for a request form. Get me an Attiga. Cynthia nodded and flicked open her phone. One more thing. Make sure it's anyone but Harlan. Cynthia spoke quickly, then back at me. Ivy Attiga? Acceptable. I spoke to Gavin next. Do you know how to prepare a glassway? He nodded and walked briskly to do so. A moment later, I found myself in front of the glass. It seemed to bend, and a moment later, a young woman emerged from it. Ivy Attiga, she introduced. You called? No time for pleasantries, I informed. We've got a monster to hunt. I briefed her on the events that had passed, then showed her the 2 recordings. I asked her if the entity we were hunting was something her family of monster hunters had encountered before. I believe so, she answered. We were at the mouth of the cave, weapons ready. Me, Gavin, Cynthia, and 3 men. Ivy flicked through a book of sorts. It's called an insectum. And if your senator's daughter is in there, I'll be betting on dead. We crossed the threshold and entered the territory of the tunnel. Why? Asked Cynthia. She remained quiet, a finger onto her lips. The Ottagar family had hunted monsters for thousands of years. And why exactly the government preferred for our department to do so instead always puzzled me. I suppose it's about control, in some sort of strange way. I looked back 5 minutes into the journey, and I saw that the entrance was gone. The monster hunter stopped us. Smell that? She asked. I shook my head. Human intestine. Confirms my suspicions. Gavin, uneasy, spoke next. Suspicions? She knelt and seemed to listen to the ground in some sort of way. Then, quickly, she stood and rushed over to... It's him! I shouted. Blue Jay 1! The commander of the 5-man force was there, eyes open, mouth gaping wide. His abdomen was cut open, intestines exposed to the air. Step back! I did so, following her orders. She lifted a shotgun and fired at his exposed stomach. Look! And there, spilling out, were these round, glossy eggs. She crushed them underneath her boot. These creatures reproduce by laying their eggs inside the intestines of their victims. Fascinating, I murmured, disgusted. We came across the rest of the men, all dead. Only one other had eggs implanted within them, and we crushed them. A noise came soon after, the sound of the creature we were hunting. Ivy tossed away her shotgun. Do the same. You won't need them for this. Are you insane? Gavin questioned. Flashlights, she commanded. Have you noticed how these things haven't stepped out? Light kills them. Oh, and bullets won't pierce their hide. I held my flashlight in both hands. I heard another screech in the darkness. More bodies and 3 cars came soon after. The dead bodies of the family, Darcy, and a couple of homeless men. And then the senator's daughter. She was halfway in her car, halfway out. Dead, too, like the others. Damn, I swore. We are definitely getting defunded. Ivy flipped her over and aimed the light directly at her exposed guts. Smoke filled the air, and then a crackling. Whatever was inside was dead. A scream. I turned and saw 3 yellow eyes and a winged, thin creature on the backs of one of the 3 soldiers who had accompanied us. I, paralysed, watched as they fought, until the creature, with one quick swipe of its claws, disemboweled him. The blood hit me, and suddenly I found myself in control again. I raised my flashlight at the bat-like creature. It hissed, smoke where I hit it. Jesus, was it ugly. The grotesque creature darted away. These things travel in packs of 4. Why 4? Gavin pondered. Not enough time. 2 dropped from the ceiling, gliding towards us. I aimed my flashlight, striking one down. I rushed over and pressed the light into its neck until I burned a hole into it. Behind me, Ivy gutted one and practically bisected it. The one from earlier snarled and snarled, claws striking at me. It hit me, and I yelped as my flesh was torn away. It hissed as it crouched to pounce on me. I would have been dead then had Cynthia not slammed herself into the creature. I raised my light until its rat-like face melted into the floor. 2 more. Ivy quickly cut into one with some sort of enchanted knife. The other slashed and eviscerated a soldier, but Gavin was quick behind it, his flashlight setting it ablaze. And then, as quickly as it had begun, it was over. The tunnel returned to its normal form, and I could see both exits from the middle. I looked at the blood that practically covered the tunnel. I radioed the blockade. It's over. I'm formally requesting a clean-up crew. And a bath. I looked over at my assistant and the others. Quite a few of those, actually.